right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the GSQ Quality Connection for October 2024. Happy that you are all joining us today. Want to remind folks, certainly we record these so that those that cannot attend can watch later, or you can go back and review. And so we will get this out in our newsletter, The Loop. And also, we often post through social media as well. So plan to do that. Just a reminder, some tech etiquette pieces. Certainly mute yourself if you're not speaking, but this is an opportunity for dialogue. So if you have something you'd like to say, feel free to unmute and speak out. Raise your hand if you'd like. Either way is just fine. Would love for you to join with your camera on so we can see your faces if that's possible for you. I know it is nap time for many, and so that doesn't work out for everyone, and that's just fine as well. Throw any questions or thoughts in the chat. We will certainly moderate that as we move forward, and happy to engage in you utilizing the chat. We will have specific time at the end of our slides today for Q&A, just open dialogue. But if any point in the presentation you have questions, just like I mentioned, shout them out. Happy to answer them. I want to talk about the agenda. So for those of you who have attended GSQ Quality Connection previously, we sort of follow the same agenda each time to keep everybody in the same space. We take time to welcome y'all and do some introductions. We typically have some kind of presentation, share updates and tips with you, and then again, open Q&A at the end. And so, welcome again. My name is Christy Opsimer. I am the Director of Systems for Great Start to Quality at ECIC. I also have my colleague Melissa Mosley here, who is the Validation Manager, who will be presenting some information for you all later on. And we're happy to have you here. I want to talk briefly about some learning objectives, and then I want to do a little bit of a poll to sort of get a better understanding of who is in our space today. So, and these are the learning objectives for any of these opportunities. So we just want folks to have a better understanding of Great Start to Quality, its purpose, how it supports children and families, and certainly childcare providers in Michigan. We want you to have a better understanding of the resources that are available to childcare programs, understand the quality improvement process, know who the people are that can support you all through the process, and know who to reach out to when you have questions. And if you don't know the place you can go to ask questions where we can route you to folks who do have the answers. So just really want to give you all the resources that you might need. Okay, I am going to see if I can launch that poll and just want to understand who is in our space today. So if you would take just a minute to tell me who you identify with. So if you're a child care provider, administrator, community partner, any one of these would be helpful. So we know sort of how to frame our conversation today. Give just a couple of seconds for folks. Right. So lots of providers, lots of resource center staff. So that's great. So if you have direct questions, I would invite our partners at the resource center to also engage in the conversation. So thank you for that. All right. Just to level set, as we do every time we are together, we are talking about the quality improvement process for Great Start to Quality. We specifically share this every time because we know that there are newly licensed programs that attend these opportunities, and we really want folks to have a good foundation of what we're talking about. So remember, we have the different quality levels in the continuous quality improvement process that programs go through. The first being maintaining health and safety. So when a program is licensed, that's the level that they come in on. That is what shows to families in the public search feature. To start engaging in the process, folks receive those quality indicators in the self-reflection, and they sit at reflecting on quality. They can move into enhancing quality when they start to work on goals. Enhancing quality validated is when those that self-reflection and indicators and evidence are submitted to ECIC staff, and we look to see how those documents, pictures, evidence aligns with the intent of the indicators. And then certainly demonstrating quality is once a program has an on-site observation and those scores meet threshold score levels. So that's where we are. That's what we're talking about today. And the last time that we were together, you and or your colleagues that attended that so graciously engaged in a survey after our time together, which was really, really helpful. We certainly want this to be your time. We do want to share information and updates, but we also want you to be able to ask questions and get what you need because your time is valuable and we certainly want to respect it. So couple of things I just want to share with you. I want to close that feedback loop. This seems to be a good time for most. And so we engage in the quality connection 6 times. It is a bi-monthly opportunity. And so I'm going to sort of keep this 1 to 2 time for 4 of those opportunities. And then to allow folks that this is not a great time for some evening opportunities. And so following this time together, I'll get those Zoom registration links and times set up and send that out certainly in the loop. And we'll continue to send those on social media. So we want everybody to have a chance to engage. Meeting topics are what we thought they might be, which is good. Certainly validation was a hot topic, continued on-site observation, and then open forum. So we will continue to do that. We certainly want to engage Resource Center staff to sort of share their experience and their stories. And we also want providers to be able to do that too. So we're going to think more about how we might structure going forward. But so thank you for those of you who completed it. And we will continue to gather feedback as we go along. All right. So as you saw from that feedback, validation was a hot topic. And one of the specific things was about indicators and evidence and what do I do and how do I show it? And so Melissa and some of her team have so graciously offered to um, share some information and guidance with you. So, Melissa, do you want to drive on your own or do you want me to keep going?
I'm happy if you keep driving.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. As Christy said, I am Melissa Mosley. I am the validation manager at ECIC for Great Start to Quality. We're going to talk about a couple things related to indicators today. The first thing is going to be selection options. So when you're reviewing the quality indicator guidance document and reflecting on the different indicators, you're going to see that each of the indicators have 3 to 4 selection options. We've been asked, when do I use currently meeting? So when you're thinking about the indicator and if your program is implementing that indicator, you're going to want to select, yes, Christy?
Your mic is going in and out, and so I'm not sure everyone can hear you well. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm just going to swap it and see if the other one's better.
Sounds good.
All right. Can you all hear me now? All right. I will also maybe try and keep my hair out of it because sometimes I know that that causes issues. So when you're looking at the self-reflection in the indicators and you're sitting down and determining whether or not your program might be meeting the intent of the indicator, you're going to see 3 to 4 selection options. And we've been asked, when should you select each one? So if you're going to select currently meeting, you're going to want to make that selection when you believe the program meets the intent of the indicator. And then you need to know that this selection will require that you upload evidence in the system to that indicator. That evidence should be what you believe is showing you are meeting the intent of the indicator. When you want to select not meeting at this time, you're going to select that when you're maybe not quite ready to make a goal around it in the system and you just don't think the program is meeting it to the full intent. Then we have not meeting at this time, create a goal. So this means you're not meeting it right now, but you're really interested in learning more about it and maybe how your program could meet the intent of this indicator in the future. This selection option will automatically create a goal in the quality improvement plan in the system that you then can go in and modify, maybe set a due date for it, or assign a staff person to that goal as well. The fourth option is not aligned to program philosophy. And this is one you're going to want to select when you're not currently meeting the intent of the indicator because it's something that really doesn't align with your program. One really clear example for this is if you're maybe a Montessori-based program, using a child assessment tool is not aligned to that philosophy. So that's kind of where the selection option comes in. I'm also trying to keep an eye on the chat. So if I miss something, if somebody could let me know, that would be great. And then, Christy, we can go to the next one.
I want to just pause real quick. Are there any questions about what Melissa shared or any clarification needed before we do move on? Okay.
All right. And then when you're going through the quality indicators, you're going to notice that the majority of our indicators fall into two types. The first type is a description indicator. So this is when the indicator starts with the program has a description on. So this is kind of looking for two pieces. We're going to look for your written description and how you share that description with either families or families and staff. So you really need to look at description indicators as two pieces. So what is it that you have in practice? And then how do you share that? And those written descriptions actually have to be written. A text message probably isn't going to count for that. We're really kind of looking for your policy around that indicator. The second type of indicator is a shows indicator. When the indicator begins with the language, the program shows how, we're going to need to see that you demonstrate how you communicate the information with families and then how is it implemented. So again, requires two pieces of evidence. One, describing how the information is shared with families and staff, and the second, how is it implemented or carried out in your program. So for typically this, we would want I'm trying to come up with an indicator off the top of my head. So the program shows how home language is encouraged with children in play. So we'd want to see your maybe policy or procedure, and then some evidence that shows us how do you encourage that, maybe photos, maybe lesson plans, anything like that. Again, two separate pieces that you'll want to pay attention to. I'm going to pause to make sure that was clear. And if my staff have any helpful tidbits that I missed, I'd invite you to unmute as well. All right. So on the screen here, you're going to see the indicator FCP1. This is a shows indicator. So program shows how it gives information to families about children's individual developmental progress. So this indicator is important for programs because sharing information about the child's development with families helps them understand their growth, helps them set goals for the children, and also it helps families and staff work together to make sure that the children are getting what they need. When you're reflecting on this indicator, it might be helpful to determine if you're meeting it by asking yourself some reflective questions. So those could be questions like, what's your process for tracking individual children's development? How do you share that developmental information with the family? Or how often do you communicate about children's development? After you reflect on those, if you think you're currently meeting it, we're going to ask that you upload evidence to the indicator in the self-reflection. On the screen, you see a snippet of a guidance document that has some examples to meet the intent of the indicator. At the top, you're going to see that we're going to want one piece around a policy, a procedure, or a statement on how you're tracking that information and how you're sharing it. And then we're going to want to see something showing that it's implemented in the program. So typically that's going to be maybe a completed conference form, a developmental record with notes, or some written communication with families. Any questions here? It's a lot of information on the slide. I'm sorry, I can't slim it down any. Yeah, Deborah, go ahead.
Okay, so those are the only two pieces of information you would need.
Well,
That would include our, that's a show, so that would include our evidence, and it would also include how we give this information to parents,
yeah,
family. Okay,
exactly. So
okay.
we're going to see how you implement it and how you share it with one of these pieces. And again, these are examples. You might have something different that would also meet the intent of the indicator. We're just trying to provide some pretty concrete examples for programs to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions here? Okay. So, Chris, if you want to take us to the next one, we're going to give a little bit of an update on guidance documents. So, since we launched the Reimagine process close to 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we came out with a guidance document and we received a lot of feedback on how maybe it wasn't the most helpful. So we are currently revising the quality indicator guidance document based on feedback from resource center staff, the validators, but most importantly, from the providers in the state of Michigan. So the image on the screen here is how we believe they will look come this spring when we launch the new version. We are having our resource centers pilot this with some providers across the state so that we make sure we are putting out the most helpful information for programs as you're working through the guidance document. So more to come on this, but we are hoping to publicly share a new guidance document in the new year. All right. I think that was all I have, and I'll just kind of keep an eye on the chat for questions.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate that. So the next part of our time together is talking about the GSQ program profile inside of the public search feature. And unfortunately, when I went to log into that system today, noticed that we were having some hiccups. So if you or a parent has tried to log in, it is a system-wide, so know that our public search feature is also used by, I don't know, 30 other states, and they're having the same issue. So our vendor is aware of it and they're working on it. The good news is I can log in on the back end to help us move along with this presentation. So uh, we've sort of sprinkled pieces of the program profile in the last several GSQ quality connections for folks to understand different, I don't know, data points, I would guess, so that you understand how families are using it. I'm going to thank Christy in advance of using this information. This is public, so anybody can see it. There's nothing private about it. I just happen to always type in the word shoe when I pull stuff up in the system, and this is what comes up. So but I think it's a really good example of what a profile can look like if folks take time to sort of engage with it. So, a couple things I want to point out here, and then we can sort of go into the system. And I would love for you to ask questions and say, and give me feedback about other data points that we might capture for families. So, one of the things I've shared in the past, and resource centers are very keen on these pieces. So when you work with them, be able to help you get to things if you're not quite sure, you don't quite remember. Each of your profiles are created when you become licensed. So every single night we get new programs that come in that are newly licensed, and they get a profile in the system. They're really bare bones. It's usually name, address, those kinds of things, and I'll show you what that looks like in the system. But what you also have are these two links, which are really cool if you're marketing, right? And so share the program profile takes you to a web page that is all your own. So if you copy that URL from that page, you can stick it in your email signature or on any marketing materials, and it'll just take families right to your specific program profile page without having to do any kind of search. So that's really cool. And then there's also a QR code specifically for your program profile. So again, if you want to copy that, it's branded with GSQ. Uh, you can put that in marketing materials or email signatures, which is a really helpful way to get folks to your page. The other thing I want to point out, because, oops, sorry, um, every page is a little bit nuanced and different. You'll see the program quality guide. That means someone from Melissa's team has actually validated this program, and they have a guide that helps families understand which indicators they were validated as meeting. So we can take a look at that if we go, if we that's where we want to drive this conversation. But just sort of wanted to show you what a profile can look like. Lots of great pictures. Families love pictures, right? I'm sure you do. When you're shopping on Amazon and you're looking for the thing, the more pictures, the better, right? And so, same kind of thing for families. So I'm going to step out of this presentation real quick and get into the system because I want to show you some stuff and I want to answer some questions. All right. All right, let's try this. And might I get a thumbs up for those who can see a branded page with great start to quality on it? Nice. Okay. So again, because I couldn't get in from sort of your view as a program, this is my view as an administrator, but it's very similar. Uh, so this is sort of what we see as your license and your regulatory status, and that all comes in that file that we receive every night. So this update data tab is the place that I would encourage you all to start. And I know resource center staff help can help guide you with this when you're looking to update things or like, where is that one piece that I want to say, yes, I do this thing now. So you'll see everything in here that's in, and you don't necessarily need to see the data, but I just sort of want you to see how this is laid out. Everything that's grayed out with this little red circle, if you hover over it, it's basically letting you know that this is the information that comes from LAR, and I'm sorry, childcare licensing, and or CHIRP. That's the file that comes to us. And so if something is inaccurate in here, it's because it came to us in an inaccurate way. And so you can use that email address that's listed there to say, ooh, that's not my address, or my primary telephone number has changed. That needs to be changed with childcare licensing. We can't do that on our end. But the things that are sort of white and open, you do have full access to change. And so we're going to talk a little bit about texting in a minute. If you are interested in receiving texts as updates, make sure you have a cell phone for texting and you've checked the box to say we have permission to send those to you. It's a really great way to update your information. Um, if you need to change your login information and aren't quite sure how to do that, we're happy to help. You can email the GSQ inbox and we can share that email address. Happy to help you with that. Again, the county is not something that we can change. One of the things, and then I'll pause for questions. One of the things that had been true in the past, and it's true for some now, but not for all, is that families had access to a program's most recent licensing inspection report. And because of some changes with the CHIRP data, that is only true now for programs that have an inspection report since January of last year. So eventually everyone will have a link to that information that goes right to CHIRP, but not everyone has one right now, even though you might have an inspection report inside of the CHIRP system. So I will stop there. Any questions about that part of the data? Any wonderings? Pretty straightforward. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. And I say that because this is really where you get to tell families about your program. So if you click on these sort of what we call accordions, more information will drop down that you can indicate. So this program could be faith-based, serve early Head Start, and be school age only. Um, so combinations happen in this space. What's important to know is that if your program has a GSRP, a Head Start, an early Head Start, and some of the accreditations that actually comes verified in another nightly data share. And so if you're clicking on things and you come back the next day and they're not staying or they're not sticking, there's a reason for that. And you can certainly reach out to your resource center or the GSQ email, and we can help you understand why that's going on. And it could be that it's working properly or it's not. So letting us know that that's happening is helpful. Credentials is another space. So again, here's those sort of grayed out fields that come from childcare licensing, like your license number, when that expires, et cetera. There's information here for accreditations, languages that might be spoken in the program, any memberships that you might be a part of, and any notes that you want to share. About our program is another really good spot to pay attention to. So if you're hiring at this time and you have submitted, excuse me, a posting on the GSQ job board, it creates a button that will send folks there. So we might be able to find one of those. I'm going to skip the interview piece for now, but the message to families is really, I'm going to fix this for her. And this too. Uh, really sort of the meat and potatoes of your program, right? Like, what do you want to tell families about your program that sets you apart? It just bumped me up because I saved it. So sorry about that. Right here. So that's a really good place to make your notes. Anything about your care setting that's important to families, right? So is it a house? Is it a duplex? Is it an apartment? Is it profit, tri-share? Do you participate in tri-share? Is it a privately owned business? Any religious affiliations that you want to share with families? That's important to some. And so that option is there. Smoke-free, pet-free. So this program, it looks like, has a pet, right, as a home-based provider, and that would be important for families to know if they're enrolling their child. So just lots of really good, specific pieces of information. What kind of meals are provided? So in this case, parents bring food. Good for a family to know. Transportation. So this program does not, but some do. So that would be good there. And other notes that you might want to share. I'm going to stop there. Pause to see if there are questions or wonderings. I'm going to keep going. And I want to do this intentionally so that you all can sort of see the things. What I would offer though is, and this happens all the time, my program accepts military assistance. That isn't a choice. Can you make that a choice? And yes, we can make that a choice. So if there's something on here that you want to share with families that you don't see, please let us know. In most cases, it's pretty easy for us to add those pieces. This is an important one, right? Parents want to know when you're open and when you're not. So your time schedule is there. If you're a full-time or part-time program, that's helpful. Certainly, we have lots of families looking for 24-hour care or evenings or overnight. So any of that information is really helpful. Program data by age. So what I want to say about this is it may change over time. We're trying to find the best way to share this information with families. And so this is a really great way for you to indicate your rates so that they understand cost by age. And yes, I do know this does not align with license ages, and that's okay. But this is sort of how families look for care, right? And so we want to make sure that we're clear on what types of age ranges that you might have. And that's certainly up for debate, and we can have conversation about that too. This is the place that might change also. So what kind of openings do you have, right? So families are like, oh, great, this is a perfect program. The hours are great. Cost is great, except that you don't have any openings. And so I need to move on, right? And so the more transparent we can be about current openings, that's really helpful. Don't get me wrong, I understand it changes daily, and so that is tricky. But know that there's an opportunity here for you to share that with families. And this is more about what your current enrollment, and this is not something that we currently show to families uh, at this point. So, care for ages is interesting. So, you might be licensed to serve 0 to 14. That's what your license says. This program says, you know what? We're going to serve 1 month to 5 years. And that's the decision as a program that I've made. So if that's true, we want families to know that. Um, the same thing with capacity. So your license says you can serve 7, but maybe you choose to serve 6. And that's, as a business owner, that's what you've decided to do. And that's just fine. And we want families to know that. So that opportunity to share that is there as well. Uh, Other things that are in here, and some of these are related to grants that we recently implemented. And so some of that data is where that's coming from. But any kind of fees, business practices, funding sources, there's that military assistance that we just recently added based on a request. So know that those things are there. Special needs is an important one for lots of families. And so this is one that we have tried to take feedback and adjust to make sure that we're communicating accurately to families what they're actually looking for. So if there are things in here that you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't really make sense anymore, or in the early childhood field, that's not the language we use anymore, we would love that feedback. But lots of really great details about lots of different special needs and disabilities. And then I'm not even going to show you the next two. That's sort of administrative data um, that you all don't necessarily get to see. So, what questions might you have about what you're seeing here, updating it? Um, and I would love your feedback about how we can help you all remember to update it.
Christy, I have what might be a question, and it's maybe something I'm missing, but I noticed under the CDC subsidy back on the other page, there was a gray shaded area where it listed the number of
Yes,
CDC children being served.
yes,
Do you know how often that is updated? And is it updated by who? I mean,
yes.
just,
See if I can find it. And that's why I made that comment. I don't even know where it is.
I think maybe was it under credentials?
Let's see.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been in there. Yeah. Number of children receiving CDC scholarship. So I was just curious as to how often that might be being updated.
Yes, great question. And that is where the comment about some recent grants came into play. So if you completed a grant application at any point within the last, I don't know, 3 years or something and said, this is how many I'm serving because that's how you got grant funding, that is where that number is coming from. It's not coming from CDC or anyone else.
Okay.
And I would say we probably need to look into whether or not that's relevant. I don't think it gets shown to families. I think it's really an internal data piece. But if there's something so that is what I believe is true. And then when you say program age by data by age, this is where you could actually put this in, where we could have it appear to families, right? I think what's most important though is the openings, right? Parents don't
Yeah.
necessarily care that you have four folks enrolled. They care that they have an opening that they might fill, right? And so that would be up here.
I just didn't remember seeing that gray shaded area before. I remember when all the grants were happening and they were entering those numbers, but then I thought, is this something that I just have overlooked or really not paid attention to? Because it was the first time I really noticed it was when you were going through
Going in.
it.
Yeah, good question. Others. All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
I have one more quick question.
Yeah, please.
We have some new staff on board within the last month, as well as we're going to have more. And do you know how quickly this will be available, the recording?
I would say on average, I turn it around in like 2 days.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Let me get our PowerPoint back up because I'm getting a note that says I have low system resources. I'm not really sure what that means. I've never seen that before. So if I cut out, that's might be why. Okay. Right, just adjusting screen so I can see your faces again. Was trying to make that as smooth as possible and it failed on me. Okay. I think we're back in action. Can you see my screen? It says texting results. Thanks, Melissa. Okay. So before I talk about the results, I do want to launch another poll if I may. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the answers to the question of did you receive a text from Great Start to Quality? Let's say anytime in the last 2 months. All right, we're going to close the window. Any last minute thoughts, answers? All right, so the vast majority of you said no. Some of that might be because you're a resource center staff and you wouldn't have been sent one. But if you are a child care provider and you did not receive one, the likelihood is that we don't have a cell phone number for you and that checkbox saying we can send them to you. So, for those of you that said yes, we responded. Nice. And if you said yes and I did not respond, I would love to learn more. And so I wonder if you could enter into the chat maybe why you didn't respond. Um, I see that I'm not sharing the results. That's not helpful. There, how's that? So you can sort of see. Um, and I did hear, hey, I got this text, but I'm not really sure if it's legit, which is always true, right? Like we're particularly in this time when all these political texts are coming in. you got to wade through all of that too. So, but what I did want to share with you is the results. And so, more than 450 folks answered this text, and this text was really asking, as you saw sort of in that program profile, do you offer full-time care or do you offer part-time care or do you offer both? Right. And so I know that 450 programs are up to date and parents are seeing exactly what is true. And so while it was a low response rate, it was the first time we did this in this way widely, right? And again, if we don't have your cell phone, we can't text you. And so that's why we sent an email prior to that to remind you to do that. So my question to you all, as you see here in this third bullet, and I would love it maybe if you just share in the chat, or if you want to unmute and share your thoughts. Are email reminders better than a text? Or there are mixed reviews that we really love text. It's easy for us to answer quickly. Help us understand what's the best way. So I see a texts are better. Okay. Text, text, text. Fantastic. That's great feedback. And either is fine, right? And I think the both and approach is probably what we'll continue to do, right? A reminder, hey, it's coming so that you know that it's legitimate. And then could you answer it? So either is fine. I do appreciate emails. Yeah. And I think that's probably the best approach is for us to continue to do both. So thank you for those who answered and helped us sort of with this trial piece, and we'll keep pushing along and hoping that we can get some updated data for families. All right, this is your time. How are we doing? Oh, we got plenty of time. So open forum, as folks indicated they were interested in, and don't be shy. Any question that you have about Great Start to Quality, the process, partner supports, anything that we can answer, and certainly Resource Center staff, if you have answers that you'd like to share, would welcome that as well. So it is your time.
Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, so we just went through the process. We're at the state where we need on-site observation. So we started the process in May. There's been a backlog, I understand. So we just received the email and I returned the, I had to do submit a questionnaire. So I've done that. So my question is, will the observation be from 23, 24? Because that's what my questions were on that information. Or will the observation come as this year?
Welcome, Kristen.
Hi, I've been here. I was just finishing my lunch. Hi, Deborah. I'm
I
Kristen Howard. I am the assessment manager, so I oversee all the folks that do the on-site observation process. So happy to help you through this. While everyone is a little bit different, I could look up your specific org if you want to email me later, but I will generically answer you.
Mhm.
If you have a program that uses an approved assessor, some of those folks are able to use the 23-24 school year scores because of when they submitted all the information by. So we're kind of in this place right now where there's kind of a mix
Mhm.
between whether or not folks can use those scores or have to use from this year. So
So we do have an approved assessor, and she did a late observation because she knew we were going through the process. So she's just waiting to hear when she needs to upload her data, but we weren't sure what type of observation she needed.
yeah, so
Okay.
she'll be able to do that. And so
Okay.
I can let you know too when we send an email to the approved assessors stating that we're all set, you're assigned.
Mhm.
That email from the approved assessor email inbox that we send does say what scores. So it'll say like you can enter scores from this period of time.
Okay.
So it will be real clear to her
Okay.
when she's assigned. But yeah, I can definitely be in touch with you as well if you have further questions about that. But yeah, it sounds like um, you should be able to use the scores from last year.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm noticing a question that in the chat. Is there a list somewhere of everything you offer as a GSQ provider? Wow, that is a big ask, and I wonder if maybe Resource Center staff have some thoughts around that. So your best, and I was going to show you a slide of resources, but we'll just go there. But your best resource initially is the GSQ website. It really gives you uh, a robust sort of list of things that you need to do at each step in the process, who to contact, videos, etc., how to access trainings that align with the quality indicators. Is there a full comprehensive list? It would be quite long, I would say. Was there something specific that you were interested in? Yeah, and I see as GSQ for providers. Did I not answer that correctly? Does someone want to share?
Christy, that's a great place for everybody to get the information on what we offer. Um, she can also reach out to us. I do work with Deanna and she works with our um, staff, so she can also reach out with them.
Great. Lots and lots and lots of things that we help provide.
See, I can take part of Michelle's and then I'll pass
Okay.
it over to Kristen. So Michelle said, my validation call is scheduled. What can I expect after that? So now that your call is scheduled, what you're going to be able to expect is just that validator calling you for about maybe an hour. Sometimes it's shorter than that. They're just going to talk through some of the evidence that you uploaded, learn a little bit more about your program. As you can imagine, it's really hard to figure out everything about your program by a piece of paper. So those phone calls really help us just learn additional information about your program and maybe identify some additional things to upload. Your validator will write you notes of if there are things that we need you to upload. We'll be very specific. And then we'll send just those indicators back to you, and you'll have about a week where you get to upload additional evidence to show that your program is meeting the intent of the indicator. After kind of you've uploaded all of that, the validator is going to go ahead and write your report, submit your report for approval and review, and then you're going to kind of go into that transition period waiting for that observation. And I'll let Kristen explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so after the validation is complete and the report is complete, you'll go into a little waiting period, like Melissa said, a little transition where you'll wait for an email to come and you'll fill out an on-site observations questions form. So this is where we're asking some very specific information that some of it is in our system and most of it is not, but we're going to verify a lot of information on this form and ask you some other questions that will really help us as we go to schedule the on-site observation. One of the big questions is if you're planning to use an approved assessor or a Great Start to Quality assessor. And there's very specific programs that are able to use an approved assessor. And definitely your resource center staff that you're working with can definitely help you through that. Some folks know right away, yes, I have an approved assessor, or no, I don't even know what you're talking about. So that's one of the big questions that's on that form. And then once the form is filled out, again, we have a really great problem right now, which is there's so many of you that are coming through. It's not a problem at all. It's amazing. So we just have to wait, and then you'll get a call for the on-site observation window. And we set up the window to have a great start to quality assessor come out if that's the route that you're going, and have that observation. So we can definitely um, get more into that process if you have further questions, but that's in a nutshell the process after that validation.
To both of you. Appreciate that. I started typing in the chat to the resource question, and one of the things that came to mind that's very new within the last couple of months is a new training available in my registry called GSQ 101, an introduction. And it's about an hour long, and Resource Center staff have the opportunity to facilitate that. Again, it's on demand, so you can sort of work through it at your own pace, but it really does talk about what GSQ is, the resources that are available, things like the lending library that both families and child care providers have access to at the resource center. So there's lots of parts and pieces. And so I would highly recommend that to new programs coming through as just sort of a really basic foundational piece about Great Start to Quality, who's involved, who can provide supports, where to go with questions, etc. I don't have course or event ID on hand in the moment, but that's certainly something we can remind folks about in the loop, and we can do that sort of on a consistent basis because it really is a good foundational piece. So you bet. Other questions, wonderings, thoughts? Right. I don't want to keep anyone unnecessarily, and certainly want to give you all space to ask other questions or get more information. Any last thoughts? And we'll close it up for today. All right, I am going to share my screen one last time, just for a couple closing pieces. All right, so our next opportunity is in December. So again, we do these bi-monthly. We're going to do it at that 1 o'clock time again in December. And I will work to put the registration link in the chat if I can be so adept. So just mark your calendars and we'll get that communication out to all of you soon. Just a reminder where to go for resources. GSQ website, so important. Lots of stuff on there. Again, documents, connections to your resource center staff, videos, etc. Facebook is a really good place to find those reminders. Probably some of you got this reminder through Facebook. Remember, we also have a GSQ Families Facebook page, and so that's relatively new, but would encourage you all to like and follow that page and share that with your families. Lots of good information for new families that are looking for care, etc. So another good place to have resources. And then YouTube. So GSQ has its own YouTube channel uh, with all of these things cataloged there. So any previous with sort of system demos that we've ever done, those are there. So excuse me, how to complete the self-reflection, right? There's a demo on how to do that. Really, really great resources. And then also these recordings live there. So certainly would recommend that you like and subscribe there as well. And that is what we have for you today. Thank you so much again for taking your time. Appreciate your engagement and questions, feedback. We really appreciate it, and we will see you again in December. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Take care.